Hello kids, we are here once again for your science lesson, and this is your teacher Uncle Ernesto. The last time we met, we looked at the life processes of living things, and today we are going to look at another group of life processes that living things go through. So today we are continuing with the lesson we had the last time on the life processes of living things. But before we move on to today's lesson, let's go through the homework you were given the last time. The first question is, what are living things? What are living things? And from the lesson, we said living things are things that are alive. Living things are things that are alive. That means that living things are things that have life in them. They can do so many things on their own. Question 2. Write down 3 life processes of living things. Write down 3 life processes of living things. And in that lesson, we said living things can move. Living things can move, as you see the dog moving on its own. We said living things grow. Living things grow. And you see the tree growing from a small tree to a big tree. And then we also said living things eat. Living things eat. I believe by seeing that food, your mouth is watering, because living things enjoy food for them to live or survive. So these are answers to the homework you were given the last time, and I believe you all had the questions right. Well done. Now let's move on to the objectives for today's lesson. The objectives for today's lesson. By the end of the lesson, you will be able to 1. State 2 life processes of living things. State 2 life processes of living things. And then 2. Mention 2 differences between plants and animals. Mention 2 differences between plants and animals. So I believe by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to state additional 2 life processes of living things and add it to what we did last time, and also state 2 differences between plants and animals. Let's start our lesson. Another life process of a living thing is living things are sensitive. Living things are sensitive. When we say living things are sensitive, what do we mean? Living things can detect changes in their environment. That is what we term sensitive. It means that living things can detect changes in their environment. And how can they detect these changes in their environment? What parts of the body will help them to detect changes in their environment? If you look at living things, especially animals and we human beings, we have what we call 5 senses. As you see on the screen, 5 senses. If you look on the screen, you see nose, and then we have the eye, we have the hand here, we have the ear, and then we have the tongue. So we start with the nose, the eye, the hand, the ear, and then the tongue. These are what we call 5 senses, and these senses help us to detect changes in our environment. So when you take the nose, being the first one, it helps us to smell things in our environment. if there's anything, the nose will detect, and then you will sense whether the smell is pleasant or unpleasant. The next one is the eye. The eye is the light of our whole body. The eye helps you to see. So the sense eye helps you to see, and that is the sight. Your hand helps you to feel any object. If I give you a glass right now, I tell you to close your eye, and then I give you a glass. By holding it, you can detect that this is a glass. If I give you a pen, by closing your eye, you can detect that what I'm holding is a pen. So this hand helps you to detect changes in your environment. The next one is the ear. The ear. And the ear helps us in hearing. And because of your ears, you can, if any music is being played, you can hear. If somebody calls your name, you can hear. Anything that passes through the ear will help you to sense what is going on by way of receiving sounds. And the last one we have here is the tongue. The tongue. And the tongue helps us to taste things. So if I tell you to close your eyes, open your mouth, and then I put chocolate inside, by tasting it with your mouth, even though you didn't see what I placed in your mouth, you can tell me that what I placed there is a chocolate. If I put anything on your tongue, you can't detect. If you are taking in hot tea, your tongue will detect that this tea is hot. If it's too cold, it's your tongue that will help you. So these are the senses that helps living things to be sensitive to their environment. The nose, the eye, the hand, the ear, and then the tongue. We call it 5 senses. And in animals, like insects, they also have what you call the antenna. And if you look at the ant there, you see a red circle on the head of the ant, circling the antenna. And this antenna is used by the ant as a sense organ. It's used by the ant as a sense organ to detect movement or help the ant to hear sounds in the environment. So living things are sensitive, and these are the organs or parts of the body that help us to detect any change in our environment. The next life process is that living things grow and die. The last time we talked about living things grow, but as part of the life process, living things grow and die. Nobody in this world, no living thing in this world will live forever. At some point in time, you will die, and the young ones will also grow. So living things grow and die. Let's look at the stages of the dog slowly. You see that the dog grew from a puppy to a big dog, to a big dog, to a big dog, and finally the dog dies. So you see the dog lying down dead. And I believe you have all seen a dead dog before. So living things grow and die. So the dog grew from a puppy to a small dog, to a medium dog, to a big dog, a bigger dog, and then finally, after some ages, the dog dies. The same applies to human beings. Human beings also grow and die. So the next life process is that living things grow and die. Let's look at trees also. Trees are also living things. So from seeds, the tree, if you put the seed on the ground, it will germinate into a seedling, and it will grow gradually as you take care of the seed and then the plant, and finally you get a big tree, and then finally the tree also dies. So you see that the tree started from a seed, grew into a smaller tree, a big tree, and finally the tree dies. So if you look at the tree, you see that you don't have any leaves on it. The tree is dead because living things grow and then finally they die. So you start from a seed, grow to a big tree, and finally the tree will die. So living things, both plants and animals, all grow and die, because in our definition we said living things are plants and animals. The next life process is that living things excrete. Living things excrete. And when you say living things excrete, what does it mean? Living things remove waste from their bodies, and that is what we call excrete or excretion. The removal of waste from your bodies is what we call excretion. So living things excrete. And what are some of the things that living things get rid of? If you look at the dog, you see that the dog is urinating. That means that the dog is removing excess water from the body. Excess water from the body. That is the waste that the body doesn't need. So living things excrete, and the dog is urinating, removing excess water from the body. If you look at the cow on the screen also, you see that the cow is eating grass. Normally when you eat and you become full, you see that it will get to a time you feel like going to private to remove excess food or the undigested food from your body, as the cow is also eating. You see the cow eating grass, and at the end of the day it will digest, and then the cow will excrete feces from the body. The cow will excrete feces from the body. So living things remove waste. We have seen urine, we have seen what? Feces. When it comes to trees, trees also remove waste from their body. Trees also remove waste from their body. Trees prepare their own food in a process called photosynthesis. Plants prepare their own food in a process called photosynthesis. They use sunlight, they use water. So this is the sunlight. You see the sun here. They use water from the ground, and then they use carbon dioxide. So animals and then humans give the plant carbon dioxide. And then after preparing their food, plants also excrete oxygen. Plants also excrete oxygen, and that is what another living thing, that the animals, also use to survive. The last time we met, we said living things need air to live. So the tree gives us oxygen as they excrete it from the process called photosynthesis. And then we also receive it and give them carbon dioxide. We also excrete carbon dioxide. When you come to human beings, we also urinate. We also go to toilet. We also bring out air from our body. And this removal of waste from our bodies is what we call excretion. So living things excrete. So we have looked at the life processes of living things. Let's now move on to the differences between plants and animals. The differences between plants and animals. We are saying living things are plants and animals, and we have looked at some of the life processes of plants and animals. Are plants and animals the same? We are saying they are all living things. Are they the same? Are plants and animals eat the same thing? Do plants and animals behave the same way? If no, then let's look at some of the differences between plants and animals. One, plants prepare their own food. Plants prepare their own food. And if you look at the beautiful plant there, the sunflower plant, busily cooking. I believe he is the chef of the plant. He's busily cooking with the pot on fire and then busily stirring whatever the plant is cooking. This is to tell you that plants prepare their own food. Plants prepare their own food. But when you look at the animal, you see that the cow here cannot prepare any food. So they feed on plants and other animals. So the cow does not prepare its own food, but they eat the food that plants have prepared. So the difference is that plants prepare their own food, and then the animals also eat the plants. So if there are no plants, some of the animals cannot survive. If you take goat, if you take cow, if you take sheep, if you take some of the wild animals like antelope, the zebra, and the rest, they all feed on plants. Even the rabbits we have at home, if you have seen rabbits or know the animal rabbit, they also feed on plants. The rabbit or the goat cannot prepare any food by itself, so they feed on the plants, but plants prepare their own food. Not all plants eat grass, as we see the cow or the goat eating grass. Some plants also eat other animals to survive. Some plants also eat other animals. But the difference here is that plants prepare their own food and animals depend on plants for their food. That is the first difference between plants and animals. Plants prepare their own food in a process called photosynthesis. And then when they finish preparing their food as plants, the animals, most of the animals also depend on the plants for their food and survival. Let's look at another difference. Plants move parts of their bodies. Plants move parts of their bodies. So if you look at the tree, we see the tree is shaking. Just look at the tree moving from left to right, from left to right, from left to right. Trees move parts of their bodies. They can't move the whole of their bodies. I believe you haven't seen any tree moving from one place to another, walking on its roots. I believe if you see anything like this, you run away, because plants, even though they are part of living things, they cannot move all the parts of their body, but they move certain parts as they are fixed in one place. They are firmly fixed in the soil, and the movement is to some parts of the plant. But when you come to animals, animals move the whole part of their bodies. So you can move from your house to school every morning. You can move from your house to the playground. When you go to school and it's break time, you can move from your classroom to the canteen to eat. You can move from your desk to the desk of another student to seek for help or take something. Animals move their whole body, just like human beings. But plants move other parts of their body. They can't move as a whole plant. As I said, I don't believe you have seen any plant. You are walking and you met a plant moving from one place to another. You run, because that is not the norm. Plants are fixed firmly on the ground, and they move only certain aspects of their body. But when you take animals, they move their whole bodies from one place to another. So the difference between plants and animal, one of the difference between plants and animal is that plants move parts of their bodies and animals move the whole part of their body. I don't think you have seen a dog or a human being moving and the hand will move first, the head will go, the leg will go, the stomach will follow. We don't have that kind of movement. If we are moving as living things, as animals or human beings, we move the whole part of our body. So that is another difference between plants and animals. The next one is that plants make new ones from their seeds or parts of the plant, such as the stem. So when you see that there is a bean seed, and the seed, when you put it in the ground, will germinate. As you see on the screen, it will germinate into a big tree. So plants make new ones from their seeds or some parts of the plant, such as the stem. So you see a stem fixed in a pot of soil, and then you see it growing. So, Kate, what are some of the examples of plants that you can grow by stem? Plants that you can grow by using the stem. I know one common example is the plant cassava. So when you want to plant cassava, cassava do not have seeds like oranges or pop, pear and the rest. We plant them using their stem. So as you see, the stem is fixed in the soil and then gradually it will grow. So plants make new ones from their seeds or parts of the plant, such as the stem. What about animals? What about animals? Some animals make new ones by giving birth, like the goats, and some also lay eggs, like the hen. So if you see the goat there, the goat is giving birth. You see a pregnant goat, and the goat will give birth to new ones. Pigs also get pregnant and they give birth to new ones. Sheep also get pregnant and they give birth to new ones. Some of the animals give birth. Human beings also get pregnant and then give birth to new ones. Some also lay eggs. So if you see on the screen, you see that the chick came from the egg. As you see, the chick came from the egg. So as some get pregnant and then give birth, some also lay eggs and then they hatch their new ones from the eggs. So if you have a small poultry farm at home, I believe that when your hen lay eggs, at a point in time, the hen will just sit on the eggs for some period of time, and after some period of time, the hen will hatch the eggs into beautiful chicks, as you see on the screen. So the difference between plants and animals is that one, plants make new ones from their seeds. So any fruit that you eat that contains seeds, it means that that fruit that you are eating, new ones can be gotten from the seeds that you throw away. So when you throw it away, some people have grown mangoes somewhere without them knowing. Maybe they ate the mango, threw the seed into a bush, and later the seed fell into a good soil and it will germinate. So you may not even know that the seed I threw away at this place is the seed that has grown into this big mango. So plants make new ones from their seeds. Some also use parts of the plant, like the cassava, using the stem to grow new ones. And when you come to animals, animals give birth. Some also hatch from eggs, as you see. So when you take the chick there, if you take, apart from the hen, the duck also give birth by using what? The eggs. The ostrich also give birth by laying eggs and then hatching from the eggs. So these are some of the differences between plants and animals. Let's go over our lesson for today. Today we continued with the life processes of living things. The life processes of living things. And we said that living things are sensitive. Living things are sensitive. That is, they detect changes in their environment using their sense organs. The nose, the eye, the hand, the ear, and then the tongue. These 5 senses help living things to detect changes in their environment, and that makes them sensitive. We also say living things grow and die. Living things grow and die. If you take human beings, according to the Bible, we live up to 70 years and then you die. Some live above 70, some also live below 70. But as a living thing, you will grow and one day you will die. And that is a life process for every living thing. Living things also excrete. That is, they remove waste from their bodies. When you hear the word excretion or excrete, it means that you are removing waste from your body. You are removing waste from your body. So if you see the dog there, the dog is urinating, meaning the dog is removing waste as water from the body. We also looked at differences between plants and animals. Differences between plants and animals. And the first difference was plants prepare their own food, but animals feed on plants. Plants are able to prepare their own food, but animals feed on plants. We human beings also feed on plants. Most of the plants gives us our food. Anytime you eat some plantain with some pava sauce made with contomere, you are eating plants. Plants prepared contomere, and you are eating from that. We eat garden eggs. We use it for soup or stew. We use most plants. Plants give us food. They prepare their own food, and we feed on plants. So the difference is that plants prepare their own food, and animals feed on the plants. The second difference was plants move parts of their bodies, but animals move their whole bodies. Plants move parts of their bodies, but animals move their whole bodies. So if you are moving, you move your whole body. You don't move parts of your bodies and then they join together. You move the whole of your body. But when you come to plants, plants are fixed firmly in the ground. They cannot move from one place to another because the roots are firmly fixed in the ground. The only movements you can see are the branches and the leaves. So plants move parts of their bodies, especially the branches and the leaves. But animals move their whole bodies from one place to another. But a plant cannot move from one place to another. They normally move parts of their bodies, especially the branches or the leaves. The last difference we looked at is that plants make new ones from their seeds or parts of the plant, such as the stem. So plants make new ones from their seeds or parts of the plant, such as the stem. But animals make new ones by giving birth, and some also lay eggs like the hen. When we treated life processes last time, we said that living things reproduce, and that is what we are talking about here. Plants reproduce through their seeds or by using parts of the plant. But animals reproduce by giving birth. That means they get pregnant and then give birth. And some also lay eggs, like the birds. If you take animals like lizards, snakes, some even give birth, some also lay eggs. So plants make new ones through their seeds, and animals make new ones through eggs or by giving birth. I hope it went well with you through this lesson. So I want you to take this homework and then you work on them. 1. State 2 life processes of living things. State 2 life processes of living things that we talked today. 2 life processes of living things we talked about today. And then 2. Mention 2 differences between plants and animals. Mention 2 differences between plants and animals. So take this homework and then make sure you do it. I believe if you were with me in this lesson, you'll be able to do the homework and score everything correct. Thank you for staying with me throughout this lesson. This is your teacher, Uncle Ernesto. See you next time for another lesson. Bye-bye.